Let's take a look at how to grade the basic bodice. We're going to grade a bodice front. I have here the sheet from your workbook, and we're going to look at the 2" or 5cm grade today. In this diagram you can see how I've distributed the grade over the block, and if we were looking at a 2" grade, I've divided that by 4, which gives us ½ an inch to distribute over this block girth or circumference, and you can see that I've further broken that down to give me the total increase for this block of ½ an inch. Or if we're looking at the centimetre option, you've got the 5cm grade divided by 4, which gives us 12.5mm, and you can see here that I've broken that down. You have here, I've cut out the Cartesian graph that's available in your workbook as well, just in case you need that as a visual reminder if you're new to grading. It's always a good idea to have that close to hand. We're going to grade today using the millimetre version of the ruler. However, if you feel more comfortable with inches, I'm going to be mentioning the inch equivalents as we go through, and you have those anyway in your workbook. So I've gone ahead and marked on my pattern the split lines here and the increments. So I know I want to either increase or decrease the pattern by 1/16 of an inch or 1.5mm here. The same here on this split line. 3mm or 1/8 of an inch on this split line, and 1/4 of an inch or 6.5mm on this line. And this is how much the pattern will either grow if we're increasing the size or shrink if we're decreasing the size in these areas as we grade. So I'm going to just look at grading for circumference or width or girth in this example. We're not going to grade for length. So let's just have that nice and close to hand so we can refer to it if we want to. I've gone ahead and given myself a x-axis and a y-axis, and that's my 0 point there. So I'm going to line up my ruler here and place the orange line perfectly on the axes there, so that I line up the crosshair with the 0 point there. When I'm happy with the placement of the ruler, I'm going to secure it there and there, so it doesn't move. However, I can still peel it backwards and forwards. So I'm going to place the block here, line the centre front neck point up with the 0 point, and I'm going to go ahead and trace around the base size to begin with. I whizzed ahead and traced around the base size, which is a size 12. I've made these notches nice and clear so that they're quite visible, and my dart apex and the drill hole there for the bust point. So I'm going to place this pattern to the 0 point and perfectly lined up there, and I will use a different coloured pen. I'll use a purple pen so that we can see clearly the difference. So I'm going to just make sure I have plenty of space to be able to move my pattern freely. So I'm satisfied that that's all lined up, and I can start the process. So I'm going to start off by tracing the first section of the pattern to the first horizontal split line. And I'm going over this quite well so that you can see it. Obviously your lines will be in pencil. So my first movement's going to be in a positive Y direction, and it's 1/16 of an inch or 1.5 mil, and it's a tiny movement, but that's what grading's all about. So I'm just going to move that 1 mil and 1.5 mil. Now don't worry too much, because on the next movement we're going to move another 1.5 mil, and we'll move up to the 3 mil line. So that we'll be able to check that perfectly. Just make sure that you're all straight and everything's lined up. And as I said, it's a tiny movement, you can hardly see it. More important to make sure that you're perfectly straight. There. So we can peel our ruler back and mark now to the second split line. So, and I'll just give you a little notch there just to show you where I'm marking to. And then we're marking round here. Just to this second split line there. Let's get our ruler back in, and then we've got another 1.5 mil. So the other half of the mil, and then 1. So now we can make sure we're really accurate in that we should be on 3 mil there. So now we can mark this portion of the block, and this time we have the dart to mark in. So we're going to mark in here, and I'm going to colour in these notches so that you can really see them. I've used my pattern notcher just to cut out the notches so that you can see them really well. I've also used my drill hole maker so that you can see the bust points and the dart apex. And we're marking all the way along to the next split line here. Just make sure that you get all the all the corners in here. So that I can see those really well. I'm happy with those. And we're marking to there. So now we have a little bit more of a movement. We're going to move 3 mil or 1/8 of an inch. So 1, 2, 3. Everything's still lined up, so I can continue marking to the next split line there. And here, Marking that notch on the armhole. And always take great care at the corners to make sure you get your corners, because if you have to blend, you need to be able to blend from one major point or cardinal point to the next. There we go. So our very last movement here is going to be 6.5 mil. So we need to and that looks good. So I can mark in the last portion here. So if I just take this away, one thing I did forget to do, which is not great, so I'm going to have to go back, and luckily I kept my split lines in, so I know where I'm moving from. I need to move 3 mil along, because on that second portion there I needed to mark in my bust point and my dart apex. So I'm happy that everything's lined up there, and I can mark those in right in the centre there. So hopefully you can see, we just fill this in with my pink pen here, which was the size 12. Just make sure that side seems nice and straight, and just go round, just checking everything, making sure that you're happy with everything, that you've got all your notches, your corners. Let's mark in 14. And again, just make sure that you're happy with everything. And I can see all my corners are perfectly defined. So there I have the size 12 and the size 14. And just please ignore these little markers, they wouldn't normally be there. Just in the interest of making everything really clear, I'm going to show you how to decrease the size. So I've popped my block back to its original start position, making sure everything's perfect there. And this time I'm going to use a green pen. So I'll just get my ruler back in place. So instead of moving in the positive Y direction, when we're decreasing the size, we're going to be moving in a minus Y direction. So the process is the same. I'm just going to start off from there. Marking in that first portion of the block. And we just mark to here. Place my ruler where it needs to be. And in this case, we're going to move down 1.5 mil. And then we can move ahead and mark in the second portion just to here. It's a little bit lighter, this colour, so hopefully I'm going to get that corner really clear, and we're just going to mark to there. So now we go back and we want to close out or move in the minus Y direction, another 1.5 mil. So we need to check, that's a 3 mil in total movement. Just check everything's in line there. It's just worth a double check. And just make sure the 0 point is lined up. So we can go ahead now and we can move and mark in the next portion. So that's from there. We can mark in the notches. I'm just colouring those in again, just to make them really clear. And mark to there. We also don't want to forget the dart apex and the drill hole there for the bust point. And this is more like a colouring exercise than a grading exercise, but I want you to be able to see really clearly. And we're moving to there. So that's where we've marked to. And I think that's pretty clear. There we go. So now, move back and we've got a 3 mil in the minus Y direction. Okay. And that allows me to just going to check here. 2. And go. It's always worth checking, making sure you're perfectly straight. So I can mark in the next section, that's just to there, and this section to here, which includes our notch. So we're grading our notches too as we go. that corner. Good, that looks great. And our final movement, which is 6.5mm. So I can I've got my 1 centimetre there. I know my total grade is 12.5, so I just need to come down to 12.5. And we've got our final portion here. So just to finish off, marking this very last corner here, and that would just blend in there. So hopefully you can see the grade, it's nice and clear. So here you have the 10, the 12 and the 14, and you're safe to grade up to a 16 and down to an 8 before you have to stop and check the grade. And if you're grading from the base size, which is a 12, you would double the increments to grade up to a 14 and obviously reduce them accordingly for the size 8.